Right, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Influencer Marketing Roundtable event. Now, for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Gordon Glenister. I'm the host of Influence the Global podcast. I'm really excited actually this week because we're going to be releasing 5 episodes of Influence, one every day during London Fashion Week. So I recently interviewed a number of really cool fashion influencers, so we're going to be doing that. So do watch out for those of you if you're not subscribed to it. I'm also the author of Influencer Marketing Strategy, which is a great read, packed full of loads of insights on how to navigate through the world of influencer marketing. I'm also a host and guest on many influencer panels. That's been really exciting. Actually, I've met some amazing people through that at big international global events. More recently, I've taken a full-time job actually as Chief Strategy Officer of a company called Audience to Media, which is a really exciting operation. And certainly at future events, I'm going to share with you some of the insights of our platform, which, by the way, has 105 million people on it, which is super. So what we do is we execute influencer marketing campaigns for companies. But I'm also coming from the association background. I'm also very much involved in setting up the 3 associations that you see there: Branded Content Marketing Association, Influence Division, Membership World, and the Meetings and Event Support Association as well. So busy guy. But I've also got my own program, which I tend to do in the evenings with entrepreneurs, business owners. And this is all about helping people become more influential. Everybody wants to, generate more revenue, create higher prices, have customers coming to them than always having to reach out to people. And of course, their content consumed by a wider audience. So I go through a 5-step process, which actually delivers exactly really what you need to be and sets you on the right path to be that sort of go-to person. You don't have to be called an influencer, but just to be that go-to person. And we've had some fantastic results with some of the people that I've had on my program. In fact, all of them, to be fair. But anybody that's interested in exploring that or know other people that are, please do reach out to me and I'd be happy to have a discovery call. So what can you use influencers for is what we're going to be talking about today. So I thought before I just go through some of the different ideas, I think it's important that we should remind ourselves of what influencers can get for you. We trust the opinions of others more than we do traditional advertising. It's quite phenomenal, isn't it, that there was a recent survey by Gartner, particularly amongst millennials and Gen Zs, that suggested that they trust traditional advertising just to the tune of 1%, but they'd more likely connect and get information from their favorite YouTuber, their favorite influencer. And I think all I would say there is that if you found somebody that creates amazing content that's either entertaining, educational, or inspirational, you will resonate with them and want to hear more from them. And you basically trust them. Not everybody fits into this bracket, of course, but a lot of people do. It's the same, of course, with B2B influencers that have really amassed an audience. Because if they didn't exude trust, then we wouldn't be following them, would we? A lot of them, of course, have got great expertise in their niche. The most successful influencers by far are those people that have, are not all things to all people, but have really honed it down. And if you think about let's just take some of the beauty influencers on YouTube, considering some of those tutorials can last up to sort of an hour. To have some of the audiences connected for that amount of time is quite phenomenal. And the only reason they're doing it is because they're creating this how-to and showing people. Even, dare I say, DIY plumbers that talk to you about how to fix certain things around the home. So they can actually definitely help with expertise. They can help you grow followers or access to their follower base. What's important though is that you do your due diligence. If you're going to work with an influencer, don't just look at their Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn and just assume that you know the accuracy of that follower data. So one of the things that we do in audience to media, for example, is that we have a score, a credibility score for their follower numbers, because what you don't want is people that have bought followers or indeed have got lots of chatbots rather, with low follower numbers. So it's important that you get the right. And again, one of the professional influencers will have their own media pack, which effectively is like a CV to work with them, and that will give you a lot of interesting data. They'll get you engagement for your brand. On average, Instagram's about 1.6%. So anything that's hitting 3% or more is great. And when I talk about engagement, I'm talking about comments, likes, anything where an audience is giving a positive thumbs up in a way. Obviously, the one step that you need from there is to actually drive them towards your website. And of course, if you've got a campaign running, perhaps with a UTM link, then it's very, very trackable as well. They will actually help grow your share of voice. In fact, I was speaking to a big whiskey brand recently that used a number of mixologists as part of their campaign, and they found that some of the overseas content creators they were working with was growing their market share in these other districts because of the type of content that they were creating. One of the great things I love about influencer marketing is it's somebody else telling your story in a way that's really authentic, because it's not enough for you to say, right, this is what I want you to say, Mr. Influencer or Mrs. Influencer. This is what we're all about. Because that may not resonate with their audience and their tone of voice. So what you've got is your brand being told in a way that's totally unique, and a way that perhaps you may never have even thought of. And that, of course, you know, when you run a campaign with an influencer, you want it to land well. But not only do you want it to land well, guess what? They do too. Because if it doesn't create the reaction, it's, you know, an influencer's objective is not only to ideally be paid for a campaign, but actually to grow their engagement, grow their community, because they need to be feeding it and nourishing it all of the time. If you think about blogs and YouTube content, it can stay around forever. I mean, I follow a YouTuber on to do a fitness program on YouTube, and she has got something like 25-30 million or so downloads. And the video that I watch, I think she made in 2019, and it's constantly still being used. If you think about a traditional advert or a billboard ad or radio ad, you know, it's here today, gone tomorrow, isn't it? But this is what's great about evergreen content. It can be really cost effective. I mean, influencers can work with you on a free basis, particularly if it's a gifting campaign. If it's on a free basis, there's no guarantee that they're going to do anything for you. You can ask them to ideally, would you mind posting something if you like, or you can gift them something on the hope that they will, but of course there's no guarantee. But either way, you know, even for a few £100, you can get quite a lot of exposure. What really is worth looking at, though, is trying to find the right influencer that resonates with your target audience. That's still the biggest challenge for so many brands. And it's not a silver bullet. It really isn't a silver bullet. Nothing happens. You know, if you think about if you're watching TV, you don't go and say, "Oh, that looks great. I'm going to go and buy that product straight away." Sometimes, which is why stuff like ambassador programs can work so much more effective. Also relevance as well. It's important that you've got you know, that the influencer is totally relatable to what you're trying to do. It's like if you had a tire brand, for example, you wouldn't be necessarily reaching out to a beauty influencer because it's not relevant. But where it is and where it works. In fact, I've often used the expression of a like fly fishing expert that might only have like 1,000 followers, but the chances are, because it's so relevant and so niche, if I was a fishing rod manufacturer, you know, reaching out to somebody like that, potentially could have a very, very high level of engagement, even to the extent of it being 25%. Yeah, so they won't have necessarily big audiences, but it will be very, very relevant. Okay, so here is a few things that you can use influencers for. Research and white paper collaborations. So an example would be Talkwalker. Talkwalker are a big social listening service, and every year they do a social insights report, but they reach out to about 70 influencers or influential people. I was one of them, and they asked for our predictions in the next 12 months. What's really smart about that is that by having all of these people, I think there are about 70, not only do, from my point of view, I get my picture and my comments and everything else within that. It's not a big amount of effort for me, but from Talkwalker's point of view, they've got all of this amazing content from 70 odd people. When the report is due, we all get sent a link. This is what it is. If you can share this on your social media, let's just assume half of us, actually probably even more, 70, 80% of us share that on our social media. And the link, of course, is going directly back to a downloadable landing page for individuals and company and organizations to receive that white paper. And that is a perfect lead magnet for Talkwalker. As it happens, they haven't paid for this collaboration, but what a smart way to do things. When I did the COVID impact report for Membership World, I interviewed 20 chief execs from trade associations and included their comments in the report. And actually, this was a fantastic way for me to get time with my target audience. Because if it was just a straight outreach, for example, like a telephone call or an email, probably they'd be busy or, but actually because it was I was asking for their opinion and their advice on something that clearly would have happened and they were going to be featured in the report, I got a whole hour on Zoom with some of these very influential people. And of course, that has meant I've been able to, over time, build up a relationship with those people. So that's a really good thing to do. Guest blogging. So what you can do is have influencers write for you on your website. And the great thing about this is that these people do this for a living. So they know the keywords, they know the types of headlines that are going to really reach a relevant audience. So that's great for you to have somebody like that, writing for you. One thing. Another thing to think about is if you're going to run a campaign is having as one of the influencers to take over your Instagram for the period of the campaign, however long that may well be. This is really successful because you're bringing in an expert to run the account for you and using the right hashtags, following the competitors of your brand. Other competitors' audiences connecting to you as well is another really cool tactic. Now, you're going to have to pay for this, of course, but it's certainly worth considering. Obviously, probably the most common way to use influencers is for a campaign that's driven by Instagram stories, posts, and YouTube videos. And again, you need to do your due diligence there and have a look at the level of engagement, i.e. the last 6 to 10 posts that those influencers have done before you've even reached out. Now, I would say that it takes trying to find the right influencers, as I said a moment ago, is still one of the biggest challenges. And that's something that clearly organizations like Audience to Media and other agencies do for a living, because they make that job much more easier for their clients to do. Just to give you some extent, we've been working with a company called Farm Fresh in Malaysia, and we've recruited 750 influencers for a gifting campaign. I mean, that is absolutely enormous. We have reached out to over 7,000 people just to get 750. So there's often a lot of influencers will not respond to outreach. I mean, it can be as high as 65 to 70%, which is very frustrating at times. And that's another reason why people say they want to work with an agency that's already got proven relationships. What you might like to do, though, is if you are, one of the things I always say to people is think about creating a Google Sheet and start to build up some of these connections over time. And if you've got some ideal influencers that you would like to work with, do not reach out to them straight away. Use the jab, jab, punch approach, which effectively is like saying, like, comment, then reach out, and reach out based upon what you've already seen. So it's not, would you like to work with us on a campaign? Is, you know, hello, Jenny, just wanted to say hello. I love the type of content you're doing. It really resonates with us and our brand. We've been watching you for a while. We'd like to talk to you about a really exciting campaign opportunity that's about blah, 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 blah. Do you see where I'm coming from? It's a lot more nurturing. As a, you know, like you wouldn't go to a conference, would you, and suddenly go into a room and say, hi, my name's Gordon, can we do business straight away? You try and build up some form of relationship. So again, that's really important. You can get involved with competitions and challenges. This is a great way. One of the reasons why I like, and particularly this is relevant on TikTok, it's great to enlist a number of influencers in this as well, because you get a greater focus with a challenge and a competition, because you've got some form of urgency, some form of deadline. People have got to commit to it. Always be aware of the rules around competitions as well. And always have a call to action, because it might be that you want people to like your page. It might be that you need them to go and visit your website. But make sure that the prizes that you're giving away are reasonable. You know, people, you know, if you're looking to people to change behavior, think about what the likely audience is going to want to have. This is another reason for also reaching out to the influencer before you've decided, rather than saying, right, this is the competition, now let's find the influencers. I think one of the things that influencers don't like is to be seen as just an afterthought, i.e. they've got, the brand's got everything finalized and sorted. Oh, we're just going to get some influencers now to amplify this. You know, they are content creators. You know, they are mini creative agencies in their own right. So why would you not want to use them as part of that process? So maybe even, you know, have a bit of a brainstorming session with 2 or 3 of them together, and flesh it out. And you might come up with, they might come up with some even better ideas that you'd not thought about. Definitely inviting influencers to events. I've seen this work really, really well. I remember at the business show, I interviewed one of the stars from Only Wears Essex, actually, Lauren Pope, who actually has her own hair extension business. She's quite a little entrepreneur in her own right. And we had about 400 people come to the event. And I would suggest that at least 25% of that audience came only because she was going to be there. So, but that, you know, there are all sorts of leading influencers that can make a big difference to events. In fact, what was it? There was a housewares and homewares exhibition that told me that what they did a little while ago is they had a pre-show specifically for influencers, and they made it exclusive for them. They gave them some prosecco, canapes. They allowed them to get specialized content with their phones and videos about, you know, new and exciting things in the housewares and homewares department. And it was very successful. But again, it was exclusive. I remember when we launched the BCMA influence division, and we had a fantastic party in London, and I got a number of influencers to come to the events, and it was a super event. I must admit, even the goodie bags were worth over £100 each, and they got a free drink and access to this club and everything else. But it's incredible how some of them were there for only a short period of time and then off. And I remember speaking to one of them, and I said, well, how come, you know, are we not, are you not enjoying the event? And she said, no, it's been great, Gordon, but I've got 4 more events to go to tonight. And I was thinking, oh my God. So this is the demand of some of these influencers that are, you know, going to do multiple product launches. So, and that's why some of the big ones are now even charging for personal appearances. Definitely for new product launches, it's a really, really good idea to bring them along. They can make a huge difference to the buzz and the atmosphere and the excitement. What's really important though is you have a themed hashtag so that all of the content can be posted in one area. There's a good company called Influencers Diary. Actually, I know the founder really well, and she specializes in getting influencers specifically to VIP events. So that's a good organization. As somebody that runs a podcast, I think it's a really good way to collaborate with influencers as guests. Obviously, I've done that myself, and it's the whole benefit of these collaborations is you're effectively borrowing a significant audience, so it can work really, really well. I mean, I'm really hopeful that these 5 that I've interviewed this like a month ago, plus I've got the sponsor behind it. So I've got the sponsor who'd like to know it, who's got a massive audience of mega thousands. So they're going to post it on their social feeds. I've got the BCMA Trade Association posting and promoting it. I've got my own network, but most of all, I've got, and if we make sure that we hashtag London Fashion Week, we've got any pickup from the fashion community as well, and not least of all the content creators themselves. So you can see where I'm coming from there. It's a really great way for everybody to win out of this. And then of course you can use influencers for joint education, like webinars, doing live stream Q&As. Those are very, very popular as well. And doing maybe a small series. I know my friend Alex Galvez, she actually went over to LinkedIn in America and filmed something for LinkedIn Learning, which was very successful. And what she did is she connected with a number of thought leaders here, and she did 1 o'clock lunchtime live over sort of 3 months, and was paid to do that by Fiverr. You may well know. So anyway, there's a few ideas that I thought might be of interest to you. Let's just have a little bit more of a chat and find out more about your own experiences. Was that useful? Was that helpful?
Yes, it was, Gordon. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Okay, great. So who are any of you using influencers at the moment, or have reached out to anybody? That's my first question.
No, I haven't, Gordon. No.
You haven't, Sandy, and you, no. John? No.
Yeah, but no success.
No success. You have. Okay, Claire. So tell me what's happened. What happened? Talk to me about.
So I think, what's she called, Caroline Flack, when she was having all of the flack she was having, I reached out to her and sadly didn't get a response. I tried a couple of different things. I tried to get in touch with a management company. I probably wasn't ready myself. So looking back at the message, it might not have been the right way to approach it.
Quite.
I would love to have like someone behind me like Davina McCall. I've got all the dreams of, women who've turned their life around really through in this way, the people who've maybe changed from drinking ladette culture to yogis, but maybe haven't gone all the way.
Yeah.
What about Katie Price or someone like that? I mean, she's a bit of a car crash, but I mean, she's
that's not really no, I think
you want something a bit more upmarket.
Yeah, I think the other idea is the doctors who look after the doctors. There's a lady called Claire Gerarda who's usually on BBC News. So I think maybe approaching someone like that, so NHS spin on it, that it's going to save lives, and it might not have an impact now, but further down the line, if I'm supporting people before they hit rock bottom, it's going to, take the pressure off resources. That's my spin. Yeah.
So one of the things I would say, always put yourself. If I had 1 million if I had 1 million people on Instagram and you are getting loads of reach outs, how does somebody like you stand out from those people? And that's something like all the people that you've mentioned are big celebrity people. They get huge amounts of people wanting all sorts of different things. So I would not try and do that immediately. I would try and
I think, didn't you just ask me what I've already done before this session? So that was what I've done before this session. But now that I've been to this session, I've learned more, Gordon. So no, be gentle with me. This is me just having a dream and like sharing with you from my heart what I've done like on my own before I came to learn. So I think learning from yourself and coming to these events is obviously going to help me have a strategy rather than just say, that's a good idea, let's try it.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. So, I mean, the other thing to think about is there are always going to be people that are connected around. Now, if you wanted to get to Davina McCall, let's just say, and you put her on your Google sheet, who else is, look at who she's following.
Yes.
Right, look at who so in other words, the people that she's following are important to her, you know, and or they may be important to her. So it could be that you reach out. Definitely the talent agency will, or the management will, screen a lot of that work. Think about it as though if I was on the other side, what would make me want to say yes to Claire? What would make me want to connect with her? I don't know who she is.
Yeah.
What's her purpose?
Yeah.
I'm busy. You know, it's almost as though, and I don't mean to be critical. I'm just saying, you know, it's a hard life out there, and it's only by this dogged determination. But thinking about what is important. Let's just take Davina McCall. What are the things that in the press that are emotive to Davina McCall?
Menopause.
That's
My
absolutely
connection, and
that's your connection. That's
my ideal client is going into that, and she's, you know, so I've thought about that. But other things, like I've just bought the book of the lady, the doctor of the doctors. I've bought her book with an intention to write a review and then maybe reach out on LinkedIn. I've watched other people do that. So I think I'm growing into the person who knows how to do it properly with your help.
Yeah, but don't be put off by one attempt. You know, it takes, you know, if you think about, what do they say? It takes 11 times to move a prospect into a sale, 11 touch points. So, you know, and if you think about a Davina McCall, that's even bigger prospect per se.
Of course. And I think even just the books I've read, the people who've influenced my journey, to go to them and maybe
absolutely
the review and a thank you, and just to say, this is what's come of me, you know, following you.
No, it really, really is. Also, it's this whole level of recognizing people before. So it's this rather than reaching out, it's about people like to feel valued before they you know, I mean, I've met somebody recently that bought my book, and we've created such an amazing connection together as two people. And yeah, I mean, obviously she was in awe of what I'd done with the book, but equally I thought she was amazing because of her vision and her strategy, and the fact that she'd made a lot of money when she was very young and come over from Africa and all these other things. And do you know what I mean? So you never know where things are going to come and how it's going to sort of roll out and develop. Also start to write about your subject rather than you. So talk about drinking and alcoholism and all those things, and so I just want to tell you about Jeff. Actually, the reason that there's some synergy there, because Jeff Beecham is one of my clients. I'd love to get him on the call actually, because he has been on one or two of them before, but he was a recruiter. Yeah. And like, if I'm really honest, we've all been pestered by recruitment agencies, haven't we? I mean, let's not kid ourselves. They're not the most highly ranked people in our society, are they? But so how does somebody like that become influential? And so what we've done together is we've created a brand identity with him, and it was all about the focusing on one niche. So he's now termed himself with me the manufacturer's recruiter. Everything about what he does is supporting UK manufacturing. So all of his LinkedIn posts are all about hashtag supporting British jobs, hashtag supporting Britain. He's now done an interview with the chairman of the Institute of Export, and it's a fantastic podcast. I'm really proud of him. He gets fantastic engagement on LinkedIn, but rarely talks about recruitment, because what he's doing is he's really growing his thought leadership. And so and people are noticing it, and you know, I'm seeing the comments. I love what you're doing, Jeff. You know, go Jeff. You know, really banging the drum for us. And he's doing this. He's in the jab approach. You know, I keep saying to him, you've got to punch every now and again. but in a way, it's really encouraging to see that. And it's the same for all of you, really, where you can talk about your subject rather than specifically what you do. The subtlety comes because that's what people will see by the level of content that you're creating. Does that make sense? Yeah. So Stuart, then, the world of theatre that you and I frequent, of course.
Indeed, yeah, the world of entertainment. Actually, just picking up on what you say, I totally agree with you. One of the things that I work with my business partner, he's a clever one, without savvy. And now that we're emerging from this cocoon, now is the time that we've got to start re-establishing ourselves in the B2B space to ensure that people are using our services. Now, I couldn't agree with you more. You don't go out and say, buy me. You start becoming the go-to person if they want to talk about the landscape of their industry, or you know, what are the opportunities, they'll see you as an expert. They don't necessarily see, and they'll see, and from that degree of expertise, there is that influence that comes from it.
Yeah.
And then you start the networking, and then you get invited to sort of TED Talk type events.
Absolutely.
And then you would sit on the panel, you know, sitting on that panel is always what it's about. I come from the travel industry and from the entertainment sector, as you know. So again, it's about being able to sit on the panel at the top table at that event, at that exhibition, at that conference.
Absolutely.
And then, that's your jab, as you call it.
Yeah.
And then from that, hopefully the odd punch, as in, you get a contract where they actually engage you for your business. But I couldn't agree with you more. You create a landscape. So for Claire, you know, she starts talking about what she, you know, influencing other people in her journey without necessarily saying, can I have your business, or whatever it is that you might want to do.
Yeah. And also, it's if there's 3 words that can help describe you, that's super important. You know, I said the manufacturer's recruiter, or what could each of you be, that people, because I really believe in this. A brand is what somebody says about you when you're not in the room. Yeah, it's so important. So if I'm going to describe you, Claire, to my friends, how can I succinctly say, you've got to meet Claire? Because what are the next 3 or 4 words I'm going to say? Because I've heard people say, oh, we do this and we do that and we do this and we do that, and I'm like saying, you know, I've got so much, I've got to nail you to one thing. Yeah, it's the same with all of you. Actually, I've got to remember you for one thing, and the shorter the better. Which is why sometimes on Instagram you see people that actually haven't got their. I mean, my videographer has labeled herself, you know, London videographer, because she knows that a lot of people are looking for videographers in London. So that's the name of her Instagram hashtag, and she has found that by doing just that, she's got a whole level of extra interest. Last week, do you remember when we talked about LinkedIn? I talked about personalizing your URL. That's such a simple, easy way to be showing up. So
it's very good, Gordon. Even you're making comments on, if you can even make a couple of comments every day on certain posts,
correct,
in the market that you're trying to get into,
correct,
it does show up. It's a very clever way of selling yourself.
It really, really is, because actually, what it does is, and I notice the level of profile visits I get keeps going up and up and up. Because people are intrigued. You know, if I write a comment, so let's just say on Jeff's post the other day on something or other, so he's done this podcast with the chairman of the Institute of Export. So I've been writing a comment now. Now the great thing about that is not only is Jeff seeing that and responding to my comment, but all of his other people in the manufacturing are seeing. You know, and also because Jeff is doing so well at the moment, I would say something like, I'm so pleased, you know, the identity of the manufacturer's recruiter is really working and landing well for you. So his audience are starting to see that he and I have been working together. So this is what a great way for me to potentially facilitate a brand opportunity. And then I can go through some of those people that are following Jeff and just put a little connection request that isn't so obtuse, because we're in the same conversation. So I would say, oh, hello, you know, John, nice to see you. We have a mutual connection in Jeff. He's a great supporter of UK manufacturing, and we've been working together for a while. Love to find out more about what you do. You know, it's not so, you know, we've used this triangle approach, which is this linkage. It's such an important thing to do. Something else that I think you might like to consider, if ever I'm speaking at an event, I always reach out to the other speakers at the event, always. And even if you're not speaking at the event, always reach out to them. They'll not know that you're not in the audience. You know, you might say, looking forward to seeing you on the XYZ date. I can assure you, you will get so many more connection requests, because from their point of view, what they're seeing somebody that is going to be interested in their session. Why would they not reach out to those people? Do you know? Whereas if you were to do this blind, well, it's a bit of a hit and miss, isn't it? There's no immediate relevance.
Right.
So it's a really good strategy to get really good people.
We have just released a game on Google Play. We're just waiting for the agreement with Apple coming through at the moment.
Amazing.
One of the things that we've been doing is actually going through Instagram, Facebook, and looking for influencers that you know, either play games, or it's actually a billiard game, a pool game. So we've looked at famous pool players, the Facebook pages that go with them, and so on and so forth. So at the moment, we're just building a research really on the best way to move forward and who we could go and you know, market with. But one of the things we were thinking of doing, and the name of the website's passed me now. Has anybody seen these websites where the famous people will actually wish somebody a happy birthday?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard about them. Yeah, I have heard about them.
I have actually, so one of my, I won't show it because it's a very personal one, but I have done that for somebody only on Valentine's Day for somebody. Yeah. And and when I say very famous, this was a singer who's a very good friend of mine, but
yeah,
so
yeah.
It's sort of low mid tier, you know, I mean, but you're absolutely right. These celebrities, particularly during lockdown, they did quite a lot of it.
Yeah. So we're wondering whether it would be worth getting some of these, you know, literally just as a, for example, the actual brains behind the game is a guy called Kyle. We're wondering whether we should start getting some of these celebs to say, you know, congratulations, Kyle, on the launch of Super Sevens. Some one-off videos like that we could then share.
They're gonna want to be paid for that.
Yeah,
Fine,
of course,
fine,
yeah.
fine,
okay.
We
haven't got a problem with that. It's I just wonder whether it's too corny, because you know, it's like you said, it's something that doesn't really resonate with them. It's literally, people know it's paid for.
Well, first and foremost, they're not going to say yes to anything that's not going to land well. You know, that's
a fair point. Actually,
so that's all part of the, you know, getting onto a Zoom call, having a chat with them or with their manager or their and just sharing some ideas. And this is what I love about working with influencers and content creators early doors, rather than just using them as amplifiers. If you're having a discussion with them about we'd like to consider doing something like this, we'd like to explore an opportunity, this is what we're trying to achieve. That's the most important thing with any influencer, is understanding what you're trying to achieve and what a really great outcome would look like, so that you are jointly, you know, influencer marketing works really, really well when a proper strategy is in line. And that starts with having objectives at the start that you can measure right the way through the campaign, and optimize it. I might add, optimize it, because if you've got like a number of influencers, it might be that one of them is going off into the sunset and really going bananas with it all, and some of the others are not. Well, why are they not? What's different about that type of content? So I always say to people, don't put all your eggs in one basket, but also think about, if it's the first time that you're going to be doing it, really measure the effectiveness of the type of content, what time of day are they putting it out, and then you can almost look at your potential rock stars. I mean, just to give an example, we're working with a company called NordVPN, which is a VPN network, and we're using we were using a number of YouTubers as part of this, and one of them literally was going off, really driving traffic to the website and getting loads of sales downloads. So why was he? What was it about him? Well, not only was his content super engaging, but also the timing of his broadcasts were linked to major football events. So that was a big trigger, we found, that was driving those sales. So can you see what I'm talking about? And he knew that. He knew that. And now we've now committed to this, to one person as opposed to 6 for a whole 6-month campaign, because that one person has been more effective than any of the other 5.
So here's a question for you then. One of the things that I'm completely in agreement with, timing is everything when it comes to social media posts.
Yeah.
But what if your clientele is potentially global? How is it then? Does it then boil down to, really multiple posts continuous during the day, rather than, if we know it's 7 a.m. in the UK,
right? Yeah.
And let's say 5 o'clock in the UK. Is it now a case of, we're literally aiming at those, and then we're going to be looking at the 7 a.m. in the Philippines and the 7 p.m. in the Philippines and so on? So
I post at the same time every day, 365 days a year. And I do it in I post at 11:11 because I'm into my numerology and my numbers and everything, but I post at 11:11 my time wherever I am. So if I'm in the UK, I post at 11:11. If I'm in Turkey, I post at 11:11. And I just think, I operate in 155 countries. There's no way that I could, so I just say, right, okay, well, that's the time I'm going to post. It doesn't matter what time it is everywhere else. That's the time it is here. It's 9:11 in the winter, in the summer in the UK. It's 8:11 in the winter. It doesn't seem to make a lot of difference. There are sort of peak times I can see, but I get, roughly the same engagement. Sometimes I get a lot more, but I just stick with the 11:11 because I think people will know, if they want to see my stuff, that there's going to be something new at that time every single day. And whatever time it is in their time zone, it's going to be the same every day. So they're not looking for different times of posts. If it's 4:30 in the afternoon there when my post goes on, they know that it's going to be 4:30 every single day.
I agree with Sandy, to be honest. And what I like about what you've just said, Sandy, is the consistency of the approach of, and this is what many of the great YouTubers will do. They will upload a video at a set time every single week, or 2 or 3 times.
If you're consistent with your posting and your time, and that is key.
It is
like chopping and changing and doing 3 posts one day, 2 another, and chopping and changing at all different times. All your clientele and your followers and your the groups that you're in, they'll know. They'll have an idea on the timing and what sort of content you're putting up on different days.
I also think that this whole idea of a weekly moment, which I'm a great fan of, this happens to be my weekly moment, but whatever that is, it doesn't have to be a roundtable event. It could be a YouTube upload. It could be a newsletter that goes out. It could be anything that is relevant to your particular audience. It could be like a surgery. It could be whatever it is, but it is always 8:30 on a Wednesday morning for me. Now, the problem with that is that this alienates my entire American audience. Because they can't make it. But it's and I have been trying to wrestle with the idea, and I've been thinking about perhaps doing a once a month networking event at 7 o'clock in the evening or something, just to try and cater for that. But the thing is, John, you're never going to please all of the people all the time.
No.
Can I just say something there? Because actually, there's two things that come out from what you're saying. First of all, what Sandy says, I totally agree with. You know, the idea you are that consistent person for your audience. And then what you were saying, Gordon, about this is my time. However, there is just one other thing which maybe listening to what John was saying, there's perhaps something else in there as well. You've got the difference between your own self, your own organization that is consistent in its messaging. But then if you want to engage third parties to message on your behalf, then surely you would you would get into their routine. So that if you're on a global platform, say like Sandy is doing her message, but she's also engaging different people in different time zones, then of course it's a slightly different thing there. You're then utilizing the third parties with their consistency, and they may of course have different methodology to reach out to their base.
Yeah,
so it's like one step forward. It's a difference between John wanting to get his message out himself and John engaging the Philippines gang, the UK gang, and the US gang. So you're using their consistency.
It's interesting. Another thing that we do, we have a tourism company based in Thailand, which we're gearing up to try and go globally. And on the back of that, I set up a travel group in Facebook to build upon and grow. And it's a long-term plan. Yeah. So since Christmas, we've gone from 0 to 1,500 followers so far. Amazing. This last week, what I've done is I've actually, because I'm thinking about the global, you know, the different time zones, sorry. So I've now scheduled posts every 4 hours continually. So at the moment, when I look now, we've got 18 posts that are already pre-scheduled and there's more being built right now. What we've seen is actually more engagement actually across the group and more views and more reach. So I think that more numbers of posts more frequently seems to be the way forward on Facebook.
And stories.
They work for me now. Yeah. I'd be putting up, I think I'd put up about 8 posts a day.
Yeah.
Across Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Yeah. All at the same time every day, but all about different services, obviously, that you're offering. It does work. Trust me on it.
Yeah. No. Indeed.
Has anybody got Facebook Reels yet?
Facebook
no, I haven't used them.
Oh, yes, I've got Facebook Reels. Yeah. I haven't used it.
I haven't yet. I know a couple of people have got it, but I mean, you know, all these platforms are going over, you know, like obviously video content. And,
it is. I've said this before.
Yeah. And the stories. Yeah, the stories get so, you know, I don't post. I post once a day on my Facebook, but I post sort of between 12 and 15 stories a day.
Yeah, stories have gone absolutely through the roof.
They have indeed. Guys, I'm really sorry, but we've got to finish it there. A, because I've got somebody at the door, and B, because I've got another meeting at 9:30. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been fun. It's been good fun. Same again next week. Different subject. Brilliant. And have a lovely day.
Thanks, Gordon.
Okay.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Gordon. Bye-bye. Have a good week, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.